was an ordinary day in Jerusalem. The baby Jesus was 8 days old, and it was the day that they needed to bring him into the temple to be circumcised. It was the ritual, the ceremony that was done to every Jewish boy on the 8th day. And so Mary and Joseph probably walked through the marketplace outside the temple, and it was busy with vendors and buyers, and they probably bought a couple of pigeons to be used as their sacrifice as part of the ceremony. And even when they got to the temple, it was busy in the temple. You know, it was probably like a Wednesday or a Thursday. We don't even know. It was an ordinary day in the temple. And there were probably many, many families who were there to have their newborn sons circumcised. It was just an ordinary thing to do. And there was nothing about Mary and Joseph that made them stand out. They were not exactly rich people. They were very common and ordinary people. And even the baby Jesus, even though pictures depict him with a halo, he didn't have a halo. There was nothing about them that would call attention to them. But the incredible thing was that when they went into the temple, there were 2 people who recognized Jesus for who he was. The first one was a man named Simeon, and he was probably an older man. And he came over and immediately recognized that Jesus was the one that God was sending, that this was the Messiah that his people had been waiting for generations. And he picked up Jesus in his arms and he began to pray a prayer, thanking God that he, just like God promised, he lived long enough to see this baby. And it could even be while he was holding the baby and praising God that Anna came up. And Anna she was in her mid-80s. She was an old woman who came up and immediately recognized that this was Jesus. This was the Messiah, the one who had come to save the world. And she began to praise God and tell everybody the news that she saw Jesus, the one who was the Messiah. Now, what was it about Simeon and Anna that made it so that they could recognize Jesus when everybody else did not recognize this baby or this family as anyone special? Well, part of it was because Simeon and Anna were looking. They were anticipating that God would send the one who would come and save the world. And they were looking. The other thing about them was that they led spiritual devotional lives. It says that Anna was a widow at a very, very young age, and from that time on she practically lived at the temple, it says. And she fasted and she prayed and she worshiped and she listened to God each day as she came in to the temple. And Simeon, it said, was a devoted man that prayed and listened to God. In fact, God told him sometime years before, somehow the Spirit communicated to him that he would someday see the Messiah before he died. And even that day, the Spirit led him in to the temple. This is an Epiphany story. Epiphany is the season of the year that reminds us that every single day we should be looking for God at work in our world. Where do we see Jesus? Maybe it's in the actions of someone. Maybe it's something that we study or a time of prayer. Or maybe it's some kind of insight. There are all different ways that we see Jesus, or we can see Jesus in the world, in our world. Let today be an epiphany for you.